believe that. Once more, Tahis Pow threw herself out of the play after hacking Caitlin Clark. Did you see what happened to Caitlin Clark? The referees made one of the worst calls we've ever seen in basketball, and new footage shows that it wasn't just bad, it was completely backwards. The video doesn't lie when Clark was called for an offensive foul against Tahina Pow, and everyone watching knew something wasn't right, but what the cameras captured from a different angle is shocking. Pow was actually grabbing. The whole Tahina Pow Caitlin Clark situation is just crazy, and I'm not kidding when I say that. There's a new angle that shows that I don't even think that Caitlin Clark pushed off in the whole push-off situation. In fact, I don't think that she pushed off. Have you seen this new footage that has everyone in a panic? It completely alters everything we thought we knew about that Caitlin Clark and Tahina Pow play. What truly occurred on the court, because this is crazy, but if you watch this clip right here, let's watch it at full speed. Pow is on her, Pow grabs her hip, and then on the play, it's obvious that Clark has a step on her defender, and Pow is clearly beaten. She's in this really strange defensive position trying to recover. This is where it gets crazy, though, because the referees called an offensive foul on Clark during the game, claiming she pushed off with her arm. The new camera angle shows a completely different story. As you can see from this alternate angle, as Caitlin tries to blow past Dana Pow, she's caught in a really strange defensive position where she's playing flat, and normally on someone like Caitlin, normally on a guard that's quick and can burn you, you have to force somewhere. Pow grabs Clark's jersey first, then she just grabs the fabric and pulls Clark back before Clark makes any contact at all. It's not subtle either. You can actually see Pow's fingers. As she frantically attempts to recover from her poor defensive position, she grabs and twists Clark's jersey. This is a textbook defensive foul that somehow got called the exact opposite way. Tina Pye is not a good enough defender to play flat like this, and she knows she got caught, so what does she do? She puts two hands on Caitlin Clark's jersey and Caitlin Clark's jersey. Clark's arm did extend a little, but it's clear that this was a natural reaction to being grabbed and pulled backward. Wouldn't you do the same thing if someone suddenly yanked your... When someone pulls you back mid-distance, it's not an offensive foul, it's just basic physics and human instinct. You can see her legs past her. And Dina Pow is past Heina Paolo here. There is no if or buts about it. And Dina Pow should stop her with her arms like this on the jersey. The video doesn't lie. When you watch this play frame by frame, there is no doubt who made the contact. Pow was beaten during the play and had to grab Clark's jersey to slow her down. This is some of the worst. There is an arm extension, but it's a very slight one. This wasn't just a missed call where the referees didn't see anything happening. They saw contact and immediately blamed Clark. This may be one of the worst missed calls in basketball history. Caitlin is already, by the way, taking her hand off Tina Powell. She has already passed the Hina Pow. The new video shows that the referees were completely mistaken when she was the victim. There is no doubt that Tina Pow should have been given a defensive foul for that jersey grab because she is in such a poor defensive position. Before Kyan Clark makes contact, notice how she is throwing herself out of the play with her right leg. She is overcommitting to that, and she is caught. This type of call is significant for more reasons than just one play, and it's the ideal illustration of how these referees appear to be observing Clark through a completely different perspective than other players on the court. Clark hardly touches her and receives an offensive foul, but Pow can grab jerseys with both hands and nothing happens. For example, Caitlin was in a poor defensive stance when Caitlin got past her and hacked her. If it is an offensive foul, it comes after the defensive foul. Basketball analysts say this call was a straight-up mistake. This isn't an isolated incident involving Caitlin Clark. Even if it weren't for the hand, I don't think that's enough for push-off to call an offensive foul, especially when the defensive players are off balance. Clark makes no sense when you can clearly see that she's reacting to being held back. Perhaps she should stop flailing her arms backward in general, but in this particular instance, she's just responding to being grabbed. The referees completely missed what actually happened, calling a foul on the wrong player and sending the wrong message about what kind of contact is permitted on the court. Question that everyone is asking after watching the preseason game against the Dream is, why does it seem like Caitlin Clark is playing with a different rule book than everyone else on the court? It's not just about one bad call anymore. It's about a pattern that's impossible to ignore. Obviously, whenever anything happens with Caitlin Clark, more light is brought to it. But during yesterday's game, Clark was repeatedly hacked, grabbed, and fouled without any whistles from the officials. I'm not referring to minor contact either. We're witnessing Clark get double-teamed with defenders all over her arms, grabbing her jersey and almost tackling her at times without any whistles from the officials. How is that even possible? Fans are complaining about Caitlin Clark pushing off, but then they're using the pow pow clip and saying, oh, look at her pushing off here. Just like, oh, that's awful. Just watch her push off. But I'm like, pow wow, she's literally holding her jersey with two hands, not even a hand check, and the referee isn't calling anything. Yes, physical defense is a part of basketball, and no one's saying that players should be called for fouls every time someone touches them, but the issue here is obvious. Clark has received far fewer calls than other players on the same court during the same game. There are freedom of movement rules, and then Ryan Harrell plows through Caitlin, who goes up straight like there was no call or, foul on Caitlin. I then witnessed other instances where players were literally just hacking and getting away with it. Several plays, even from other games, show Clark being double hand checked and having his jersey grabbed without any calls whatsoever. What was the last time we witnessed this concerning might be happening with these officials? I don't know where this whistle was or what happened, but they went from calling every little thing that might or might not have been a foul to letting out hacks in the same game. In the same half of a game during fast breaks, Clark was repeatedly knocked around without any whistles. This is why it's so unfair to watch a star player get treated like this. Defenders are literally grabbing her jersey with both hands, and the referees are just watching it happen like it's perfectly normal. How do you explain the inconsistency that strikes plays that were clearly fouls when committed against other players were somehow magically clean when Clark was the victim? In the same half, the referees gave away 4 or 5 hacks again, which is enough fouls, like we're trying to stop you from scoring. So they gave away multiple hacks while calling fouls where no one touched anyone. This pattern goes far beyond the typical missed calls that everyone misses occasionally. But when it's this frequent and this one-sided, it appears that officials are holding Clark to a completely different standard. It's as if they've decided that, yeah, you can grab Clark, but don't you dare touch anyone else. It's embarrassing to watch every game and say, not only are there players here that are getting, like there are players getting away with straight up. It's not good enough. Even basketball analysts who aren't fans of the sport have noted the discrepancy in how contact is referred to when Clark is involved. The evidence clearly indicates that Clark is being singled out more than other players, with officials seemingly trying to call offensive fouls on her while utterly ignoring defensive contact against her. For example, during last year's playoffs, do we not recall when Caitlin Clark was shooting a layup and in the air, and Marina Maverick committed a block and a hit on her arm? Every time a blocking fell, the hit on the arm fell, and she simply arrived late and said, Caitlin's not getting a layup jump? The referees say, let's be honest, this targeted officiating doesn't just affect Clark, it changes the entire flow of the game and puts the Fever at a major disadvantage. Sideways into her, takes her arms out, knocks Caitlin down, and she stops because she knows she's failed. How can you run an offense when your star player is getting mauled every possession without any calls? How can Clark set up teammates when she's constantly fighting through illegal? I think that Mike, the referee, said, "Oh, I don't really care about the intent at this point, but if the referees are going to allow Clark to be hacked, they should allow everyone to be hacked. If they're going to call ticky-tack fouls on one end, they should call them on the other end as well." Right now, the inconsistency is so blatant that it's becoming a big issue for the entire league. I'm just so mad happening in the WNBA because it's not just one player. It's not the leagues being physical either. The standard refereeing is awful. Would you believe that some analysts are saying that Irish National League referees are better than WNBA officials? That's how bad it's gotten. The Clark Powell incident isn't a one-off error. Rather, it's the most obvious example of a major officiating issue that's hurting the entire WNBA at the moment. Every professional who has ever set foot in Ireland will tell you that the worst referees were knocked during their entire pro careers. There are numerous examples beyond the Clark situation, such as when Dana Bonner was knocked down without a call, or when Alicia Gray was hacked during the quick break with the referees. Players from every team are witnessing this all over the court, and it is simply unacceptable in the league at this level. During WNBA games, we are seeing blatant fouls that are completely ignored while phantom fouls are being invented out of thin air. I've never seen some of the worst refereeing in my life, and this is one of the worst missed calls I believe I've ever seen in basketball. This is not just a hand check, it's a double jersey grab. Some of these officials appear to be basing their calls on game momentum rather than actual fouls. One official is even known as the MJ referee for swinging games with their whistles. How is that acceptable in professional sport? The calls vary from quarter to quarter, game to game, and there's no rhyme or reason. Players are unaware of the amount of contact that is permitted from 1 minute to the next, so the WNBA has a serious refereeing issue. To be completely honest, this inconsistency is not only annoying, but it is also dangerous because the rules seem to change with each possession. 1 minute they allow players to play very physically, and the next minute they call touch fouls. How are players supposed to adjust to this? It creates unsafe conditions on the court. However, the worst of these was Dana B, when the ball ended up in Dana Bonner's hands. The next possession, Alicia Gray is running the break, and Aaliyah Boston, or perhaps it was Hashard, literally hacks to stop her from even getting a shot up. So many WNBA players have spoken out about the officiating issues, demonstrating that it's not just about Clark or the Fever, it's affecting everyone. Players are getting away with straight up hacking people while ticky-tack fouls are called. Dana Bonner scores a layup and she is knocked over and they don't call a foul either. There's no consistency anywhere else. I believe we saw in a single sequence one, the offensive foul on Ken was not an offensive foul. Instead, there was a 50-50 car miss and 2 blatant fouls. Now that the WNBA is finally receiving the attention it deserves, these officiating issues are becoming more obvious, and they're seriously harming the league's reputation at a time when they need it most. The widespread refereeing issue is directly affecting game results and player performance throughout the WNBA. And I witnessed it in the Sky game. Now that the league is in the spotlight more than ever, the WNBA cannot afford to let subpar officiating ruin the product when they finally have the world watching. Fans will leave if they believe the games aren't being called fairly. So fixing the officiating is essential. For example, there were players who were caught slapping their arm in the sky after someone got post position or caught an offensive rebound. Be a top priority before it destroys everything they've built. For example, we were seeing ghosts, but it's not even that, it's not physical. It's either that we call fouls that don't happen where no one is near anyone, like we have a layup that someone will miss and it's a foul. How many times did Aaliyah Boston miss an open layup in the first quarter and get called for a foul? This new footage doesn't just show one awful call. It demonstrates a major issue that's hurting the WNBA at a time when more people are finally watching. I watched every single Caitlin Clark game last year, and I made videos on call. And I can't recall specific scenarios, but there were a lot of instances in the Sky game last night for both teams where players were literally the league has a lot of talented players right now, like Clark and Boston Ree, who are altering the game. But it doesn't matter if viewers don't believe what they're watching. The WNBA must quickly resolve this referee issue.